So we're going to take a look at the Bitrix24 telephony module in this session. So on the left-hand side, you should see a menu link to your telephony module. And the first thing to do really is to check if the prices are all okay for you. So by terms and prices, I mean things like call rates. And to do so, we can just click on the little down arrow next to where it says Bitrix24 account balance on the top up button. You can see here that we have a prices option, and what it will do is it will click through to the Bitrix24 call rates page, and you can see here from, if you want to go into a bit more detail about the rates for the locations, you can click on see all rates and you'll be able to see a PDF of every rate going. The rental fees for numbers and the rental fee for SIP connectors, and I'll discuss these in a little bit during this session. And furthermore, what you are going to need to do is you are going to need to top up the credit within your system. So let's talk about that now. So you can see here, if we click on top up, I'll be able to buy one of those rates on there. We have $50 in at the moment. You are going to need to have a positive balance to be able to, first of all, rent a number, and then secondly, obviously, to make calls at those call rates. So once you have a positive balance here, then what you need to do is you need to decide how you want to connect a telephone number up to Bitrix. And I'll discuss the three different options in a moment. You essentially have the ability to rent a number from anywhere in the world. Obviously, in some locations, there are restrictions in terms of you do have to be located at that country, and if so, then you just need to upload documentation here to provide proof that you are from that region. The second option is going to be either a cloud PBX or an office PBX, and then the third option is to connect a third-party application, and that might be either from one of the applications that is in the application store on Bitrix, or secondly, it might be through a custom API integration. So let's take a look at the rent a number option here. And what I'll do is I'll actually rent a number. So we can see in here, if we say UK, and then I'm going to select local, and let's select a London number. So if I find here, London, I'm going to have a 0208 number. And you can see here, my monthly payment is going to be charged at $6. So let's rent that number. And then what it should do is it should give us the number to be able to be used. So you can see it here, that's how easy it is. So let me just copy that number so I can use that in a little bit later on. So we got 0208 068 0055. So you can see here, that is how easy it is to click, and then we can start configuring the number from this location. And we'll come through to this in a little bit and look at the actual telephony settings. But here, if I just refresh now, we should be able to see the number that we have rented from Bitrix. So you can see here, we on a monthly by monthly basis, it's only going to cost us $6 to continue using that number. So again, this is perfect now then for remote working, especially if you have office phones and you maybe just need to redirect that office number to your new Bitrix number. You can do that. You just need to contact your telephony provider and you can redirect that number to the one in Bitrix, and you can start answering the calls remotely and quite easily. So that's the first option, definitely the most straightforward and simple option. If you have a PBX, then you can either connect it up if it's a cloud PBX, or you can connect it up if it's an Office PBX. Now, you will need for these options the Bitrix24 SIP connector. So if I click on Cloud PBX at the moment, then what you can see here, you can see a button to connect your Cloud PBX. You just have to put all the different values in there. Click on Save, and it will connect as long as everything is okay. And you can test that out for free for the first 60 minutes of calls. So that will be a free testing period. And then what you will need to do is you'll need to buy the SIP connector. And the SIP connector is charged at $49 per month. This is exactly the same procedure for the Office PBX. And again, we can click on Connect to Office PBX, and it will ask you for the different parameters for this kind of connection. But again, you get it for 60 minutes free, or you can buy the SIP connector here. Then the third way is going to be to connect a third-party application. So you can see here the integrations at the bottom. Click on Total Apps, and then this will provide you with a predefined list of all the telephony applications that you can connect to Bitrix. So one of the popular ones, 3CX is very popular. Ring Central is another very popular tool. Free PBX, Asterisk. There are a number of very, very popular telephony providers that have the integration with Bitrix already. So if you have one of those, click into the application itself, click on View, and then you'll be able to click on the Install button once that loads up. So there is, you can see here, click on Install, and then that will install it, and it will provide you with the next steps of connecting up your Bitrix telephony with that third-party provider. The final option, and probably the most difficult, and it is quite an expensive integration, is using a completely custom API integration. It would need to be scoped out by a partner to be able to do that. So please do get in touch with us if that is something that you are interested in. So once you've done your connection and you have your number within Bitrix, then the first thing is obviously you're going to need to configure everything up. So the first thing that you can do, if you click on Configure Numbers, click on the number that we've just connected, and then we have some predefined settings in here. So we can play music, we can use a voice menu if we want to, and I'll discuss a little bit more about voice menus in a moment. But there are things such as press 1 for sales, press 2 for support, and you can set that up once a menu has been set up. You can send inbound calls to a responsible person specified in the CRM. So what that means is essentially if a number is recognized in your CRM and the person responsible for that contact associated to it is going to be able to pick up the call because they are responsible for that contact. It might be an account manager. So this is a really powerful element of Bitrix24. And then finally, we can set up call groups, which we're going to do in a moment. So queues are perfect for if you have multiple numbers. You can specify different employees to answer different numbers based on the queue that's been assigned to that particular number. CRM integration, again, one of the more powerful elements of having Bitrix24 telephony. You can create a new lead based on a number not being recognized in the CRM already, and you can determine if you want all inbound calls, outbound calls, or all calls to generate a new lead. You can record all of your calls that you receive or make out, so save recordings of all calls. You can warn people, or you can upload your own transcription of, you can transcribe all calls so into a text file if you wanted to, but you will need to have a look at that option on here. So these are all a whole range of different settings for only this specific number. You can see here we can set time parameters. So if somebody calls out of office, you can record your own message, or you can specify a number to forward the call to. You can see here employees can select this number for outbound calls, so we'll allow that one. And we'll set our user on here. Hold music, so you can upload your own, or you can have some predefined numbers, or you can disconnect the number. So let's just click on save, and let's save the configuration. So that's the first thing that you need to do. You can see it's quite straightforward. You can see it's pretty understandable what you need to do. Secondly, you can then start configuring the telephony settings. So click into here. We can now see we can use the default number for outgoing calls, and we can set up different options for this. So CRM integration, when is the lead going to be created? It's going to be created when you end the call on here. Telephony users, you can put extension numbers for all your users on here. The default number for all outgoing calls. So if you've connected up multiple numbers, you can specify different numbers for different users if you need to. And then finally, you can connect a SIP phone, which I'll show you where and how to do that in a moment. So a SIP phone is essentially a desk phone, so you can connect up your desk phones to answer the calls that are coming in on Bitrix. Queue groups are really easy and really straightforward to set up. We can add a new queue group here. So it might say John, Mike, Mark, and Josie and Jane. And then we can distribute evenly, exactly as in queue, so it will go from one to the next, or to everybody at once. It's completely up to you how you want to do it. So if we said to everybody in this case, and then we can prompt voice calls. Sorry, I need to put a name in, so let's put sales queue on here, so you can see it's going to get distributed to everybody. And then if we go back into our configure our telephone number here, then what we can do is click on configure, and then we can assign to the sales queue that we've just set up here, and click on send. So that is essentially how you can put a queue against a particular number. I mentioned about voice menus, so you can set these up to press 1 for support, 2 for sales. So we add a menu, it's going to be a text speak, so you can say, please press 1 for sales, press 2 for support. And then here you can say press 1, we can forward to a particular queue group. So press 1 for sales, we'd like to send it to the sales group, queue, sorry. And then on 2, we can forward to the default group. So it's a really good and really handy tool. So we can say sales and support. And then if we go back to our configure the number, then we can assign this particular menu to that number. And finally, you can blacklist numbers. So if you're getting calls from numbers that you don't want, then you can click into here, click on add to list, and then you can add that particular number. So it is very straightforward to start setting up this and start using it straight away. I'm going to show you in a moment how to use it on the system and how to start dialing out what it looks like to receive calls. So that is a good opportunity to understand how it all works. We can connect phones like I mentioned, so you can see here we can connect SIP phones. This is a step-by-step guide on how to do it. And then you can assign your users the SIP phones that you connect in telephony users section. And then finally, we have access permissions. So you can start seeing on here. So if we had a role, clicked into a particular role in here, so let's say manager, you can see they can view their own call statistics. They can listen to their own calls. They can execute any outbound calls, but they can't access the user settings for the telephony settings for like configuring numbers and managing numbers, so they can't add and rent any new numbers. Click on save, and then all you need to do is assign that role to a specific user group, or a department. So again, get these set up correctly from the beginning, and then you can work your way through using the Bitrix24 telephony. Before I go into and just show you how to call on the system, the call details at the top up here, so we can see in our call details, we can see all calls that have been made from the system here. As an administrator, we can filter out specific users when calls were made. If you set record on, then we can maybe see if we've got any on here. So we have a couple. So if you see here, we can play recordings. We can also download recordings. So we have a number of them on here. We can also see who the call has been made against. And another one of the good things, if you do have call recordings, is that it will record it on the activity stream of the particular user, the particular contact, sorry. So I don't think we have any on here. I was just going to check. But what it would have a little telephone icon and then the call recording. So it gives you quite a transparent view of any calls that have been made on your system and who by, and other users then can listen to them and see what was discussed as well. But it's also great for a call monitoring purpose case in this on here. So to make the calls from the system, we can use the little phone icon in the bottom right hand corner here. So I can say +4477 and then type the number in, click on call, and then that will start calling, and the user will obviously pick it up from the other end. That will then start recording, and if we set it to, I think we just did, that's what popped up, you'll be able to see a lead that's been created. So I would just have a think about your, so you can see here 16 seconds ago, a new call. So you might just want to have a play around with how those leads are created. So if we go into a particular contact, we can do the same in here. So if we click into Jane Green, then we can click on here and it can start dialing that particular user up. Let me just see if I can put a number in here. Get rid of a couple of these. Okay, so we have a number. And then what we'll try, and let's have a look if we can start dialing out a number. So I'm just going to use this on here. So if I start dialing a specific number that we've just rented, and what we can do is we can see here, I just called in and we skipped a call from this particular number. So what we would need to do is ensure that we have the working time set so we can answer those calls. What happens is the call will pop up in the middle of the screen. It will tell you if the number that it's coming from exists in the CRM. So you can see in here, the call was skipped from this. So I just dialed this on here and it was Jane Green. You can see that the user is Jane Green on here. So what we should do is, I think we should go back to the telephony module here, and let's try and see if we can get a call coming through on the system. So if we click on Configure menu here, and then click on Configure, what we just need to check is this working hours. If we have it selected, which we do, we actually are currently in EST time zone, then we can see that currently we are out of the hours. So let's just deselect this for the moment. And hopefully once we go back into the CRM, or we can be anywhere in the system, let me try and dial this number once again to be able to come through. So I'm now dialing the number. and now asks for an extension. And then there you go. You can actually see now that this number is coming through. It's coming through to the number that we've just rented, and it's pulling up a calling card for this. So you can see there that the call comes through, picks up the calling card because it recognizes this number. If it didn't recognize it, obviously it would then not show you a calling card. But if a number was associated to a lead or it was associated to a deal, then it would also, sorry, a lead, not a deal, because the contact would be associated to the deal as you saw when it popped up. But it would show you that specific card. If the number didn't exist, then it would simply just pop up with the number, you would answer it, and then you would be able to generate a lead automatically from that. If we were to answer that call, it would then record it, and then it would put it into Jane Green's activity stream. So hopefully you can see how easy that is to set up. It's perfect, like I say, if you're quickly and temporarily needing to access a telephone system remotely. You can redirect your current number to Bitrix, or you can use one of the integration methods to connect up Bitrix telephony. So hopefully that helps. Bye for now.